Martin, awesome to be talking with you. Martin or Martin, which is the right pronunciation for?
Whatever floats your boat.
Typically, what
uh,
would be the Swedish pronunciation of it? Would it be Martin or Martin?
yeah, with a Martin. Yeah,
Martin with it. Yeah, I
yeah.
suspected as much. Yes, so,
hmm
sounds better. Yeah, Martin.
Thanks for
Yeah.
having me.
Thanks for being here and accepting my invitation.
Sure.
It's interesting. I mean, we talked before.
Mm.
How did that go? Did people like that conversation we had? Was
Yeah,
it
they
uh,
did very much.
work well?
Because it's always interesting for Sweden. I'm from Sweden, so Swedish people we really like to listen to preppers abroad, and
Yeah,
not only from the US, because that's where the mainstream
yeah,
prepping is from.
yeah.
So your story is a great one
Yeah,
as well.
one of the things I've noticed is that if you just focus on, and especially, you know what the thing is, it got a lot like Hollywood and marketing and reality TV shows,
Mm,
and some things apply, but many other things just don't even work. I mean, many of the
mm.
things that I often see people doing, like I think to it that will not work the way you think it will if you ever need it.
No,
So good for you that you don't have to try it because
yeah,
it will fail horribly.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
the water filter in a beer can, which doesn't work that well.
Yeah, there's a number of things that are like common knowledge, and a lot of it is borrowed from some stuff. Like you can improvise a water filtration system. Sure, is that really safe for you to drink?
hmm
It really depends. It's very difficult to filter water
Yeah,
correctly and
yeah, it
make it
is
safe. So yeah,
indeed.
yeah, it gets complicated. But yes, you're right. It's nice to talk from with people that are not from US and have that specific view of things. That's one of the reasons why I want to talk with you.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you got started in preparedness. What was your preparedness origin, if you like to?
Mm.
When
Mine is a different one from everyone else, I think. I have a son he turned 16 this year, and
nice,
when he was let's see, when he was 12,
yeah,
he as all kids today, they have an addiction to the phone
yeah,
and the tablet, and I just wanted to do something about that,
hmm,
and we both loved Walking Dead. I mean, a 12-year loving Walking Dead. What's
yeah,
not to love about that guy?
perfectly fine.
Yeah. So we actually started prepping in a fictional way to survive the zombie apocalypse. And
Hmm.
my intention with that was to get out into the woods and learn how to start fires and learn how to do shelters and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And during that time, I actually I kind of slipped into the preparedness society or community in Sweden, because I like to document everything I do. So I documented our trying to make fires, and I published it, and a lot of Swedish preppers actually liked that.
hmm,
And then I became a part of that community, and really woke up when I found out that there is a saying, when everything is so good, so you can have everything,
yeah,
something bad is about to happen. And
yeah. It won't
I mean,
last, right?
no, I mean, take a look at Netflix. Whatever you like about that company,
Yeah,
they produce, or a couple of years ago, they produced so much good content. It was unbelievable. And I said to myself, I think the world is ending, because you can't do this much good movie adaptations and stuff like that. So yeah, but I started, I think like everyone else, after a while, to really read about the problems in Sweden that we had, and yeah, and I woke up and I talked a lot with Swedish preppers, and then yeah, and I also started documenting my journey in blog format.
yeah.
So and got followers that way. So that's my origin.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Which would you say would be like one of the differences you notice? Because since you were mentioning in the beginning, preppers from the United States, what would be like one of the differences that you see compared to preppers in Sweden?
I mean, the inspiration, if I go to myself, the way I started prepping was actually with, knives and cool stuff, gadgets.
Yeah.
Totally inspired by well, not just the States, but the I don't want to say the incorrect prepping way,
Oh,
but
the
that's not what
fiction,
prepping is.
the fiction
Yeah, the
aspect
fictional
of,
prep.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, we have people like that. I'm a guy like that. I love my knives. I love my gadgets. But then I kind of woke up and said to myself, and that was when I started doing the podcast, that people are scared to approach prepping because they see all these gadgets and they see the cost and they see the the huge amount of time you need to spend to become prepared. So I was talking to, in the first episodes, I was talking to friends who are not prepared and like wanted to, why don't you do anything? Yeah, because it's so big. It's so big. It's so costly. I don't have the means to do it. And then we started breaking it down to small steps, and that's when I wanted our community to grow, to mature, to be like my name says, Vardagsprepping, which is everyday prepping. So normal life prepping.
Nice.
And I see that right now we have a lot of interaction with people of the right mindset. So I would say the Swedish prepper is more not relaxed, but more everyday prepared.
Less dramatic, more...
or less. I'm gonna change my saying to say, I found out that I have a better interaction when talking about prepping in that way. And I get more response than reviewing cool machetes and stuff like that.
It is. There's a fear factor as well, which is the fear mongering, the doom and gloom, that it's everything, and that is actually counterproductive in terms of preparedness in general, or like living your daily life. If you are not enjoying life as it is right now, when things get even more complicated, you're not likely to be mentally prepared for that. And always waiting for the end of the, I've been in the community for a while, and there's people like that are always waiting for the end of the world. This is going to be happening, and it's almost like they want it to happen because their life currently is maybe miserable right now, so later it will be better.
I think that's I went down that hole as well. Consuming so much doomsday information, and it actually eats you up, and you can't cope. So I think those people are, I'm sorry, I think they're depressed and need to find someone to talk to, because it's counterproductive, as you said, to just consuming fear. And I think you need to make prepping fun and incorporate it into outdoors adventures and stuff like that, because they sort of go hand in hand. You don't have electricity out in the woods, so that's a good way of practicing.
Yes, especially when you have little children. If you have children, you can't explain, well, son, I'm going to be explaining you how to slaughter someone if he comes after you, which it is an aspect as well, especially in terms of firearm self-defense. It could happen, or even the stuff that we're seeing now in terms of, who would have thought that people in Ukraine would be now fighting for their lives in their country? If I had told this like 10 years ago, you would have thought like, no, that's very unlikely. We don't behave like that anymore. We're civilized now. And it turns out that we're not. We're just like always.
We're still orcs. Not everyone, but
we thought that we were beyond that. Like, it's only like in very tribal countries where there's already internal conflict and they're already bombing and slaughtering one another. But one nation like invading and attacking another one, like it would have been like unthought of recently.
And I don't know from your side what people say, like how. I know your story, but and one of the questions we had for you was like, Do people really get together during a crisis,
Yeah.
or will they start fighting? And I think it comes down to the nature of the beast. I
Yeah.
mean, we were slaughtering each other. We have been doing so for tens of thousands
Yes,
of
we are. That's
years.
what we are.
Yeah. So yeah. I think we need to appreciate that we're kind of civilized,
Yeah.
most of us,
And
in a
some
way.
people will surprise you, even complete strangers in very dire circumstances. There's people that will go out of their way and even put themselves at risk to save others. It happens.
Mm,
But I think it's becoming less and less common.
mm,
I was just watching a video of a guy in Chicago in the United States. He was being beaten by some lunatic. You don't know if it's mental disorders or drugs, but whatever
yeah,
the case, he was beating an old man with a metal bar, and people just walked by like doing nothing. This
yeah,
happens in London all the time even when they're abusing little children, beating little kids. There was a
mm,
man, a stepfather that beat his stepson to death. I don't know if it was in Hyde Park or something insane like that. So in the middle of a crowded area, and just people keep on walking by.
yeah.
We've become a
It's
little bit like that.
awful. Yeah, it's awful. And I think I also read because this is totally not prepping, but I read about
Yeah,
when you buy an apartment
yeah,
or a house. Well, this is more for apartments. So I read actually they did a survey that said that when you bought an apartment like 20, 30 years ago, you bought a home,
yeah,
but now it's only an investment. So that could explain, I buy this because I'm going to sell it and I'm going to make money. So it's not my home. And therefore, I don't care anymore.
about
I
the
don't care about
community.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's something that I experience a lot in Stockholm. I mean, neighbors not even saying
talking.
hello.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
And you
You
can
know,
scare them by saying hello. And
yeah.
they're like,
Yeah, well, I was living in Northern Ireland not that long ago, and I tried to talk to my neighbors, and I asked him, well, do chit chat. So
mm,
I was talking with one. Do you know that Tom from next door? No, I've never talked with him. Oh, so you're new? No, I've been living here for 20 years. So you've been living here for 20 years, and you don't know your next door neighbor? You have no
yeah.
idea who he is? That
Mm,
is, yes, that's something that I think we've lost in the
yeah.
way.
And that could explain the things you're seeing. I
Yeah,
mean, we just care about ourselves.
and also
Nothing more.
the way everything has become legalized, like against good behavior. Like if you get involved, if someone is hurting someone and you get involved, you may get sued. The police may
Mm,
come after you because what are you doing? Why did you get into this fight that it was not about you?
mm.
There's that fear of, will I be sued out of my socks? Just destroyed financially for getting involved in something that maybe I shouldn't be.
Yeah. And there is actually I don't know if this is concerning in any way, but our Ministry of how will I well we have a state institute which handles the safety and preparedness for the society,
Yeah,
and they actually revised their recommendations during a terrorist attack. So they don't say now they say that call the police and then go hide.
yeah,
So nothing about the
yeah.
responsibility of maybe trying to stop them.
Do something.
Um, so that's because that's when it comes from a government agency, you're like, okay, this is the rules now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of scary, but yeah, I don't know.
I
But
guess this happens, I think in most countries, they really stay away from the idea of take charge, do something, get yourself a gun and learn how to shoot, because it kind of replaces the purpose of the
yeah,
government, which is keeping order. So it goes against the nature of the government itself, which is keeping things under control. If they're saying, if you see a terrorist, draw and shoot accurately,
yeah,
it wouldn't be. And I guess it puts a lot of pressure on average people, which I become more over the years more understanding of other people's reality and circumstances. Maybe a man that has no interest in firearms, he will never do like even 1% of the things I've done. Maybe a person that has a certain disability, you're telling him to learn how to shoot, fight, hand-to-hand fighting or fighting with a knife. And it's beyond their physical ability, their psychological ability. They're not capable of doing something like that. So maybe it just puts too much pressure. But yeah, I guess that makes sense, given that it's coming from the government. They usually stay away from that. Have you? Because I know there's quite a bit of shooting in Sweden. They do like IPSC shooting competition.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of that.
But it's not as common as you would think, because it's quite hard to...
Difficult, right?
Yeah, it's hard to get a license for guns. And I don't want to say the government is actively working against people wanting to learn
not
how to shoot, but that's what it feels like, because right. It has become more difficult to get a hunter's license permit, and also, but on the other side, the interest of getting a license and joining clubs for handguns is huge right now.
Yes, I would, especially with Russia, right? Especially with everything going on. Have you noticed like an increase of, damn, we maybe should prepare just in case?
Well, not with guns. Yeah, I can't connect those two, but I just, because I wanted to learn or get a permit to shoot. But I've had a really hard time here in Stockholm to find a club who isn't full. But on the other hand, we have let's see, what is this called? We have the voluntary military.
Yeah,
I don't know what that's
like
called.
a civil defense kind of.
Yeah, civil defense. Yeah. So when Russia attacked Ukraine, they were overwhelmed by people wanting to join the civil defense.
Yes.
So I think they usually have like I think we talked to a military who said, I think it was like they have like 1,500 applications per year, and now they got 30,000.
Amazing, yeah.
So people are interested.
Because
indeed.
I mean, if you don't look around and realize what's going on, I mean, a lot of people must have connected the dots of, look, all that footage of like students, old people, all of a sudden being given a gun and go fight for your country, because if not, we're all dead. Man, you really should have prepared ahead of that. I think people in Poland, right, are a lot more gung-ho. In Poland, they're a lot more prepared for a potential conflict with Russia, or could that be the case?
Yeah, it's just us left.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, yes, and different countries will try to stay. I think it's healthy. I think when people realize these things, you can make it part of your culture, like I guess it is in Switzerland, where it's part of their identity or the cultural traditions to, yes, we are Swiss, we defend ourselves and we practice for that. I think that's pretty cool. It's quite nice to see that. So
indeed,
which would be the challenges and the reality that you see right now in terms of preparedness in Sweden specifically? And if you want to address that, what would be the things that people are more worried about?
I don't know people. We're involved in lots of Facebook groups to read, mostly to read, or I am to read, and the people's questions. Yeah. So it's very apparent that a lot of people woke up with a slap in their face when Russia invaded Ukraine, because they were living in the peace-loving mind society thing. And they were immediately putting a lot of pressure onto the government about bunkers, shelters, and iodine tablets. Yeah. So everyone saw the nuclear bombs dropping very soon, and that's I would say that's a panic state for a person to. That's the first thing they're asking in the prepper group, but I would say thanks to Russia invading Ukraine, we've seen a huge boost in people wanting to be prepared.
Yeah.
But that's not the question you asked. You asked about the challenges. I think we are struck really hard with the prices.
Yeah.
Because we are in a similar situation as, I would say, Germany, with dismantling the nuclear power plants.
Horrible idea.
Yes, according to me, it's a very stupid idea, especially since they were actually certified to be running for 60 more years.
They were running perfectly well, clean energy, and
Yeah. So now we have wind power, and it turns out that during the summer it didn't blow. The wind didn't blow. So we have, I think from day to day, we have for the southern of Sweden, some days there is actually 16,000% increase in the electricity cost.
Oh,
And that's, I mean, and we have, and in the south of Sweden, that's our agricultural area. And that's where we have the least amount of energy.
Yeah.
In the north of Sweden, we have not so much agriculture, and they have excess of electricity or energy. So that's one thing. And also the gas prices. I mean, you have it tough in the rest of. We have it tough in the rest of the Europe, but we also have a demand that we put what it's called.
Biodiesel
into the, so we need to add that to the gasoline and the diesel.
Yes.
Which makes the price go up like 50 cents per liter.
Doesn't it all feel like a big scam? You know, with the excuse of saving the environment, they just destroy what was affordable and was working already, and now you just have to pay insane prices for the environment, which we all know it's a scam. It's I don't want to sound like negative, but how much of that really goes into saving the environment or reducing pollution in the least?
Yeah, there has been so many, according to me, so many incorrect decisions when it comes to the environment. And I know every country, we need to do something about the environment. But that, I mean, we have 3 big nations polluting the world most of all.
China.
And it's not Sweden.
Yeah.
And it's not Spain. It's not Germany. Yeah. There are 3 bigger countries. So we need to do something about that.
I don't know if you've seen that documentary about the agenda about plastic recycling, how it's mostly all like a lie, and most of the plastic we're told it's being recycled is not. And how even the plastic companies, when they first got started, they realized that people just kept on using things. So they started doing I mean, it's a very interesting documentary, but the same plastic industry started making their products disposable so that people would just throw them away and buy a new one. Instead of making like a thicker bag of plastic, make a thin one so that people throw it. Because if you make it thicker, bigger, people will use it time and again because that's what they're used to. Now, the idea of recycling means you just throw it away and you buy a new one. All of this pollutes. I mean, it is amazing how it's incredible how many of the agendas, they actually achieve the complete opposite of what the name stands for. So, for example, save the environment, the green economy or energy, it's actually polluting and contaminating more than if it wasn't there at all. It's something really.
In Sweden, we were forcibly added a new tax by the Environmentalist Party, which so if you wanted to use a plastic bag at the checkout when you went shopping, you needed to pay tax. So that bag went from 10 cents to 30 cents. And the Environmentalist Party says that this has been a huge success because no one buys those bags anymore. Turns out
people buy more.
They don't buy them because they go into the store and they buy the waste bags, which is also made of plastics.
Yeah.
They are not under this tax. So they buy those and they put the groceries inside that instead.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the plastic industry in Sweden has actually seen an increase in using plastics.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's and same with the nuclear energy thing. The idea that it's good, and going down that rabbit hole, you realize
Mm,
there's a lot of money, money from Russia, money from different interests that want people to stop producing local energy, mostly so that they will buy it from people that benefit from that. So the idea that you're saving the environment by not using energy and gas from Europe, but you're better off buying it from Russia. And
mm,
how is that better? I mean, Russia is in a different planet, in a different universe, that wherever they pollute does not affect us.
mm.
Destroying your local production of energy, closing down the nuclear facilities in Europe so as to buy gas from Russia makes no sense whatsoever. What, Russia is better at producing energy, polluting less than Europe? I
Yeah.
don't think so. They don't have that track record.
No. And that's a conspiracy theory that actually is blooming, and it turns out to be true, I would say. The
Yeah,
more you read about all the negotiations and deals made.
yeah. And I don't want to get into all the conspiracy stuff because I know, but when you just Google it, for example, the sanctions we've been told, Europe is doing sanctions, the United States is doing sanctions. They're not sanctioning the biggest exporter of energy of Russia. The biggest company, I don't recall the name right now, but the biggest company is not being sanctioned at all. All of the
Hmm.
so-called sanctions have been in place since 2014. It's going to be 8 years now. And all of the sanctions, what? Made things worse? Now, they use those same excuses as to justify the increase in price of gas and the inflation. They all blame it on the war, which the war is, of course, terrible. But lots of these things, I was watching in UK, the power, one of the biggest electric companies, uh, multiplied by 5 their profit margin, not the price, but the
Mm,
profit margin by 5 at a time in which prices are through the roof. How can you
yeah.
justify that?
Mm. No, I don't know. That's not that's not
That's not
good.
good. Yeah, yeah, but yes, I think we have to be aware of all of these things. But what would you be? What would you say are your if someone is starting into preparedness, the top three advices that you would give someone that is now getting started? I see
Mm.
everything going on. I want to get prepared. What would be the things that you would tell them to first get into?
Yeah, and I usually say water because that's the most difficult thing to
Yeah.
survive without. But right now, and the other thing about preparedness, I would say, when you start, you need to make a plan. You really need to make a plan. And I know it sounds awfully boring, but you need to do
Yeah.
the you need to check what's actually could happen, what could actually happen.
Yeah.
And what can happen in Sweden and will happen is that the big energy companies in Sweden, they actually say, hey, if you live in the southern part of Sweden, be prepared for blackouts
Mm.
this winter or autumn. So I would say the first thing I would start to prepare was some means of keeping my house warm or my place to live warm,
Right.
using not electrical things.
Right. Right.
So because and also since most of these things are made in China or Japan, we have another problem getting them here. So
Uh-huh.
I would suggest you start to invest
Now,
in that
what would
now.
you advise for heating like an apartment? Because someone like lives in a homestead and you have a house out in the country, maybe you have a fireplace. But how would you
Mm,
recommend staying warm in a small apartment in the city or a small town? Because it's not
mm.
just that would be one of the differences with the United States. All over Europe, you have people living in little towns that also happen to be in small apartments.
Yeah. And actually, I would say let's just go back like 50 years. We didn't live in apartments that much, but or maybe longer. But I mean, make sure that you are comfortable wearing more clothes inside your apartment because
Yeah.
right now we're so used to having the exact
Yeah.
perfect temperature every
21
day.
degrees, yes.
Yeah, always. And if it's not air conditioning, it's heat. So I would just, I mean, that's the most simple thing you can do. Make sure you have warm clothes to have inside. And um, yes, and if you're getting old like me, make sure you have slippers because you're going to
Yeah.
start freezing up. Your feet is going to be frozen. But yeah, so that's the most simple, basic thing you can do. Make sure that you have warm clothes, and also what do you call it? Underclothes.
Underwear, yes.
Yeah,
Thermal underwear
yeah,
for winter,
yeah,
long shorts. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, long the
yeah.
long
Because
underwear.
but and then when you want to make it cozy, I mean, we have these gas heaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that comes with a risk, and clothes don't come with a risk because you
Yeah.
just wear them.
Yeah.
But having these heaters, you actually need to, since they burn, you need to have ventilation, or otherwise you could basically die.
Suffocates.
So
Yeah.
yeah. But that's if you're comfortable using it and you know how to use it, I mean, go ahead and buy one. But we can't, because we're so focused on, you know, things to fix things for us.
Yeah.
So a gas heater or something like this and something like that. But hey, you know, you can also wear
More clothes. And stay fit and work out. You know, if
Yeah.
you're cold, maybe work out, which a lot of people can use.
Yeah.
That is maybe one of the things that goes over the head of a lot of people. Like they focus on guns, they focus on gear, and they don't focus on themselves. Are you fit? Are you healthy? You know, I always say you don't have to be an athlete, but you have to be in somewhat good shape so as to walk a certain distance, avoid the most common. I mean, if we're talking about surviving, you have to address the most common causes of premature death, which are not zombies or even Russians. It's going to be cardiovascular disease because of a sedentary lifestyle and bad diet. So, and it also affects your life the most. Your quality of life is reduced a lot because of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I used to train a lot, and and run a lot, like every day.
Yeah.
And then during COVID, something really strange happened with me, so I stopped training, and I just worked all the time instead because I'm in the IT industry.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed is that when coming back to training now, you feel so good.
Much
And you
better.
get
Yeah.
in such a good mental state when you you don't need to run like 10 kilometers. It's
Yeah.
if you just move your body
A little bit.
and yeah, and raise your pulse,
Yeah.
you're gonna feel so much better. And also that's also as you said, Fernando, before going to bed, make sure to do a little workout so the body is warm, and then go to bed,
Yeah.
and then you'll stay warm. Because if you
true.
go to bed cold, you'll stay cold.
Yeah. Yeah, good
Yeah.
advice. Hey, are like kerosene heaters popular there? Because I know they are in Japan, which is a strange thing, given that's a very technological country. But most people in Japan, they apparently heat their apartments with kerosene heaters. Are those popular over there, or not so much?
They're popular, but mostly for, you know, if you have a countryside house and you don't have the stove with fire stove. And actually, why do you know why Japanese people use that? It's because
Earthquakes.
they are in the same they're in the same situation as the rest of Europe right now. Insane prices for electricity.
Right.
And they have always had that. So that's why they use kerosene.
Oh, really?
But
They use it because of how much cheaper it is? That's the main
Yeah.
reason why they use those?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. They make some of the best. I have a couple Corona that are made in Japan. Those are some of the best. And they're designed so as to be used in apartments. And they even have like a system where if it tilts because of an earthquake or if someone knocked it over, it shuts down immediately. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, I actually bought one. I wanted to try that last winter, so I ordered it, but it came during the spring, so I didn't get any.
Too hot.
I didn't have any opportunity to try it. But
Yeah,
I'm
but
going
always
to try
have some ventilation. Remember that, people, because those can
yeah.
be, it's very dangerous if not.
Yeah, open flames are dangerous.
Yeah, and get the carbon monoxide alarm, the detector. Those are must-haves if you have any kind of heating with a combustion like that.
Yeah.
So what would be like a couple more pieces of advice for people, that want to get started? Usually it goes towards buying piles of stuff. What is it where you would actually buy? If I have a small budget, I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting into preparedness. I understand. I'm going to be making a plan. I'll understand my main concerns, things that are likely to happen. If I live in an area where there's potential floods, that's something of a concern. If, all of these things I analyze and structure correctly, but I have a bit of a budget. What would you be looking to, do with that?
Yeah, I would also again emphasize the plan because that I think that needs to go into a shopping list or a list of things I need, and then I would actually use that list to do an inventory of things I actually already have, because I think you don't know everything you have.
Yes, true.
And you don't want to buy. Well, one is none, two is one, etc., etc., as we say in the prepper community. But starting, you only need one of each. But I would it all depends. I mean, if you're in an area which is prone to be flooded, you might want to check for things to stop the flood. It could be sandbags, or I don't know, but just I think that it's the most important thing is to actually, when doing that plan and finding the crisis that might happen to you, and focus on them. I mean, yes, now we have a risk of a potential electricity outage, so maybe maybe not focusing on food. Food is really important in prepping, but maybe not focusing. But start with, as I said, means to be warm, and then means to actually have light in your apartment, even if it's a blackout, and then means of making food without electricity, stuff like that. But then I think those lists, I think they're also they're a good idea because it gives you a vision of things you need.
Organizing.
But you also need to have in mind that you should use that as a list in your plan and not a shopping list. You don't have to buy everything that's on the list because it's so individual with prepping. And I mean, one list written by a house owner doesn't apply for an apartment owner. So and then but I think the most important thing is to actually do it. It's I mean, I've met so many people that I call theoretical preppers. They make the plans, they do the stuff, but they
actually do it.
They don't know. And I don't know why, because planning is the most boring part. Buying is cool. And having the stuff is cool.
Yes. Do you have a big knife collection? Is it something that you have a lot of, or have you moderated
not
some? Not too many.
I only have like 10 or something.
Okay.
So I think that's pretty normal.
That's reasonable. Yes. I've gone through. I don't even know how many knives I have. Honestly, I have just too much stuff. And the thing about too much stuff, it kind of like it ties you down. It makes people doubt about even at times when they should be evacuating. They should be leaving. But I have all of this, and here's where I have all my stuff, and it's just stuff. It's just stuff. It's all it is.
And I think one thing that people tend to forget is on the, life. When life ends, that's a major crisis for all the people left behind. But this is also one of the crises that will happen to everyone on this planet. So I think if you don't want to go out and buy lots of things, write down words that you want your loved ones to hear, because we're also seeing, for some reason now, we're seeing people drop like flies without any good explanation.
Weird.
And weird.
We're not going to we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that because YouTube doesn't like it, but
but so I would say, hey, take the time when you're healthy and just write down everything you want to say to those you love, and just put it somewhere.
Yeah.
because the worst thing would be you not, or them not hearing you say you love them or whatever. So I mean, prepping is so basic in some ways.
Yeah.
And it can be very complicated and gadget intensive in other places. So, but
So true.
yeah. So, and I would also say, because we had long discussions about this, about hope during crisis. How do I get hope, and how do we communicate and stuff like that? But I mean, make sure that you're in a good place now with your family and with your loved ones, because that will, the foundation you build there will actually benefit you when times get tough. So there's a lot of small things you can do.
Yes.
Stop looking at the phone when you're eating dinner and talk
Jesus
to
Christ,
each other instead.
Yeah, we don't do that. I mean, I have 3 kids, and when we're eating, there's no... I mean, it doesn't even... We don't even think about bringing a phone or turning a screen on when we're having family time, eating or lunch. That just... It would be insane. But you make a great point about being in a good place right now, because if you're in a bad place now, it will not get better when things get worse. It just doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't.
I got an email once from a young guy that was just getting married, and his wife was pregnant. Turns out that the wife died during labor when she was giving when she was giving birth, and his wife died. Now he had a young newborn daughter, and he had lost his wife. He also lost the income that she had because she was working, and he said that he had no life insurance because he didn't think about that because they were young and they had no concerns. All of a sudden, he says, it wouldn't have made that much of a big difference, but it would have made life a lot easier, even though it wouldn't compensate in any way for the loss that he suffered. But at least he wouldn't have to be worrying about how am I gonna put food on the table or keep on paying for stuff now that I'm in this horrible place, and I also have to worry about money. So life insurance, people, if you have a family, that's you really need to get one.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because we also need to see prepping as a buffer.
Yeah.
So it gives you time to change your way if something happens, and a life insurance that's actually a buffer. It's not a compensation for someone dying.
Yeah.
It's to give you a buffer so you can actually
you get time,
figure out,
man. You figure stuff out.
Yeah. And the same with food and water. I mean, if shit hits the fan, you need to have time to plan.
Yeah.
What am I going to do and stuff like that. So so buffering is really important.
Awesome. Martin, we talked for a while now. For people that want to follow you, there's the website there, correct? Yeah. They can follow you there, and your channel.
Yeah, we're on on YouTube as well, and I would like to say this as well, because I appeared in a documentary for Deutsche Welle, amongst others.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have had difficulties finding me, and those who did find me, they were downstruck because it's all in Swedish. So now we're actually starting to produce material in English.
Okay.
And we're on the blog. You can go there, and there is a pinned blog post, which is we have collected all the things we do in English if people want to have a look there. I think your interview is there and stuff like that. But
awesome.
Yeah. And we're also on TikTok and Twitter and Facebook and everything. It's I don't know how I'm doing all these things.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay, well, it was fantastic to have a chat with you, Martin. Martin. And let's hope we can do it again sometime. Okay.
Yeah, I would glad to. And you're welcome to us as well. Anytime.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever you want, just let me know and we'll do it. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, man. Take care.
You too.